Welcome back, Mando.
Oh, greetings, Bucketheads. Mavar Tagar. Welcome to our 373rd Bravely Blazing Back in Bucket Time episode of MandoVision. And I am your host, Nargai Tom. Thank you so much for checking out this small independent Star Wars podcast. We're so glad you're here. Reach out to us on the socials at Mando_Vision on X and Insta. And of course, you can email me, MandoVisionTom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share this show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. All right, Bucketheads. Listen, sorry, little slip of the thumb there. We got an episode for you today, as we do every single week. And this time we are going back in time, as I alluded to. We're going to talk about season 1 of The Mandalorian as we sort of gear up and get fired up because we're just weeks away from The Mandalorian and Grogu blazing to the cinemas near you. And that's exciting. We're excited about it. We're trying to get more excited about it, actually. So rewatching The Mandalorian wasn't necessarily something I had as like a high priority. I was like, well, I'll get to it if I can get to it. But after watching Maul Shadow Lord, I was definitely in a Star Wars frame of mind. And yeah, we started the journey. And I'm here to talk to you about it. I don't think I've watched the show all the way through since right before we launched this podcast. It was about 6-ish years ago now at this point. So it was fun to go back and check this show out. I got a couple other things to talk to you about, but we're going to save it. We're going to do that on the other side of the bump, and you know what that means. Let's go ahead and do it. It's time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
Get out of here. We'll hold them off. You're going to have to relocate the covert. This is the way. This is the way.
All right, first things first. Let me kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. If this were a video podcast, this would be much more evident to you all. But I have once again relocated the podcast space. We are still not in what I hope will ultimately be our sort of podcast dojo, aka studio. That project is way behind schedule and so full of distractions and nonsense and side quests that who knows when that planned space will come to fruition. But for the time being, yes, I have moved our space to another location of the condo. If anyone is in the trust tree, you might know why that is. Recording space is becoming harder and harder to have. A nice quiet recording environment is becoming a little bit more challenging recently. So we have once again moved, and I'll be honest with you, I am struggling to get comfortable today. This is definitely an adjustment. I was in a much more comfortable chair at the last spot. This chair not as comfortable, and required a decent amount of slouching. So I'm doing something that I've never done before, and I'm actually holding the microphone. And I'm finding this to be much more comfortable for the time being. I hope this is not a permanent state of affairs. I will have to find something. Maybe it's time to invest in one of those sort of like microphone arms, if you will. It could be time to do that because I don't think holding this is going to be much fun either. But I guess we'll see how it goes today. In my own ears, this sounds pretty good. So hopefully the quality of that is translating to your ears as well. So yeah, let's see how this goes. Also, let's go ahead and talk about some real Star Wars stuff, though. Last week, I think we all know what happened. There's a lot of hullabaloo surrounding it. But yes, last Wednesday, the tickets for Star Wars Celebration 2027 went on sale. And a lot of people were left with their cups running over of anger and frustration. And I have to admit, I think it's totally justified. These online queues and the way it's sort of done for this event and many others online, Comic-Con is no exception. And if you are an astute listener of this podcast, you know that I have thrown in the towel on San Diego Comic-Con ticket purchasing. I think it's a complete sham the way in which it's done. I don't think it benefits the fans in the least. I think it benefits people who are there to scoop up all the exclusive merch they can get their hands on so they can resell it. I think it favors those people who have who will pay money to others to log on and bots and all these other things. So I don't find it to be a fun experience at all. That all being said, I decided that since this year, or I guess next year, with Celebration being in Los Angeles, a brisk 2.5 to 3.5 hour drive, depending on traffic, from my location here in San Diego, I would make the effort to get Celebration tickets, because who knows when the next time it'll be so close. So and again, it being the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, it felt like I needed to make the effort and experience what so many fans have been experiencing with these online queues that, again, I have given up on years ago. So on Wednesday, I was at work, and all I really had access to was my phone. So around 11:45, I jumped in the online queue, and it said it might be upwards of an hour for a wait time, and I was like, all right. So I plugged my phone into a charger, and I just let it do its thing. And I would go back periodically. I had a lot of work to do that day. I would go back periodically and see if that little green man in the green bar had moved one iota. And it felt like for the first hour or so, he didn't move a millimeter, a fraction of anything. He was just standing there in the back, his little legs moving, but going nowhere fast. It was like a treadmill from hell. And I was like, well, this is probably not going to be something that's going to work out in my favor. And I was sort of resigned at that point. Well, all right, I'll keep this going, but odds are the tickets are getting snatched up faster than I can possibly imagine. And like I said, an hour went by, and then another hour went by, and I was like, and by that point, the little man had started to move, and I was like, well, I mean, he's getting there. He's getting there. He'd covered some ground in that second hour, and as we were getting towards like around the 2 hour and 30-minute mark, 2 hours 40-minute mark or so, it was getting close to 3 hours, but not quite 3. It was going to be my turn, and luckily this was also coinciding with when I was going to be taking my meal break. So I went outside, went down to my car, aka my cafeteria, where I do my darndest thinking during that hour, where I just try to meditate and clear my mind and forget about the troubles of the day for 30 minutes. No, not this day. Instead, I put all the troubles on Front Street as I held my little phone in my hand and watched that little man inch ever closer to the goal line for Star Wars Celebration tickets. And he made it. And then it took me to a screen that made my blood boil, because it was like, hey, we think that you're cheating. We think that you cut the line. We think that you're using someone else's login. And then on the very bottom, it says, if we're wrong, click this button. And I read that screen. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you bleeping kidding me? And I saw the little thing on the bottom to say to click that button. And I was like, if I click this button and I go back to the end of the line, I'm going to lose it. I clicked the little button, and all of a sudden I was in the purchasing screen. I don't know what that was all about. I don't know if I even understood what that whole thing was. Maybe I read it wrong. It's possible. But all of a sudden I found myself in the ticket purchasing screen. And they had done updates throughout the wait time, that, VIP was gone and the 4-day badges were gone. But it said all the other ones were still there. And I was like, all right, well, let's see what it's what. Well, by the time I got in there, Friday, Saturday, gone. Those were not an option. Now, luckily, I had sort of resigned myself to the idea, like, well, I'm not going to go on Friday and Saturday anyways. Let me snap up this Thursday ticket. Thursday was like the cheaper of the tickets anyways. And honestly, for my work schedule, Well, again, I don't know what my work schedule will be like next April, but just sort of guessing that, taking off a Thursday, not too big of a deal, especially one in early April. So I got a Thursday ticket for Star Wars Celebration. And I learned that shortly after I made my purchase, maybe 15 to 20 minutes later, that was it. They were all gone. Thursday and Sunday were all gone. And it was Thursday and Sunday were the only days available when I got in there. So it didn't last much longer after I got my ticket that it sold out for the whole weekend. Now, there's always that possibility, because I think we've all seen the stories online about the people's frustration who waited in that queue for close to 3 hours, thinking they were going to get a ticket. And the people, Reed's Expos, I think is the group in charge of it. They were like, well, we're going to sort through here and see, how many of these tickets those were bots, or were people getting duplicates, and there'll be some available. So, just like stay tuned and like maybe click this linky thing here and there. So maybe some of those people were able to get some if they found out that there were some shenanigans going on. And I guarantee you there were shenanigans going on. There's no way they weren't having shenanigans going on. But maybe some other people were able to get into the convention who actually really genuinely want to go and participate in a Star Wars thing. That being said, yeah, I'm excited to go. Yeah, it'll be for one day. If you're going to be there on Thursday, shoot me a message. Maybe we can all meet up. We'll do a little thing, grab a taco, whatever, and talk about some Star Wars stuff. So yeah, something to look forward to next April. One day only for me, but that's okay. I think one day is all I really need. I don't know anything about how Star Wars Celebration works, so I'll be checking all those websites out and seeing what's all the hullabaloo and how to get around this place and what's going on. I will not be in line spending exorbitant amount of money to meet any of the stars of Star Wars. That is not my cup of tea, but more power to those of you who do enjoy that aspect of it. I'm hoping to hear some cool news, attend some panels, see some things, and maybe snag some merch here and there, if it's cool enough, if it's appropriate for my interests. So yeah, again, I found the experience, all the articles, all the people complaining online, I feel like they're totally justified. It was not a pleasurable experience by any stretch. If I wasn't at work, I probably would have been crazy irritated just waiting for that little man to move. Luckily, I was able to distract myself pretty well until it was my turn. Yeah, so I got lucky. I have a ticket. I will be there. And if anyone's going to be there on Thursday, say hi. I'm sure I'll be wearing a MandoVision shirt or something. I don't know. Again, let me know ahead of time. Hit me up on those socials. Find me, and we'll figure something out. Yeah. All right. So that's all I got to say about Celebration so far. If there's more announcements, I guess we're going to talk about Celebration stuff as it comes up, as it gets closer. Because, again, I imagine there will be some big stuff coming out of that Celebration. Because it's going to be right before Starfighter comes out. So there's going to be some cool stuff going on, I'm sure of that. All right, but why are we here this week? Basically because I just wanted to revisit. I wanted to talk to you guys that I did revisit Season 1 of The Mandalorian. Again, for the first time in 5 or 6 years, I sat down and watched all 8 episodes of that opening season. There have been, over the years, I've gone back and watched snippets of episodes. I've gone back and watched a full episode here and there. But yeah, I had not sat down and watched all 8 in quite some time. So this was going to be an experience. And I was very quickly sucked back into the show. I was completely transported back to where I was when it debuted back in, 2019? And it's glorious. That first season of the show is magical. It takes you back to, it brings back a lot of the feelings that you probably had when you first saw Star Wars and why you love Star Wars so much to this day. Did it make me feel like a kid again? No. Nothing crazy like that. But it gave me that sense of new, that sense of I am in a new world and I am completely immersed in it. And I want to bathe in this new portion of the Star Wars galaxy. And that's what it did. Again, transported back. The first 3 episodes of that show are a fantastic introduction for what the show is, who our characters are, and what our arc is going to be. And then the last 2 episodes of the season are a magnificent conclusion of that initial story and spinning it off into what is to come from that show. So I had a great time going back and reconnecting with these characters. I forgot how much I really enjoyed a lot of these characters. Obviously, Din Djarin and Grogu are sort of the main attractions. And seeing those performances again and being able to kind of compare the growth of those characters to where we leave with them at the end of Season 3. Fantastic. Greef Karga, Cara Dune, the introduction of Moff Gideon. All these things are fantastic and really well done. And I love the scope of the show, especially in the beginning. Like the episodes are big but small, if you know what I mean. Like big action but small scale stakes. It's almost a mission a week sort of thing, right? We're gonna go on a mission. We're gonna go capture a bounty. We're stuck on this planet. We got to get off. We got to fight some Jawas. All right, and then and we're setting up the background of a post Return of the Jedi galaxy, the Imperial Remnant, all these great factors that had been talked about in so many pieces of expanded universe, but never really covered in any sort of live action format to this point. So seeing the Empire on the ropes and kind of worn down, like dirty, dingy stormtroopers that are just kind of hanging on by a thread on these remote outposts in the Outer Rim. Again, just transport away to a magical place, and this again, I love how simple it is. I love that the introduction isn't galaxy spanning. I love that it's very narrow focus, right? Yes, by the end, we begin to pull that camera back and we begin to see more of the galaxy at large and what's kind of going on in it and what the Mandalorian's place in it is to be, as the same thing for Grogu, as we get the introduction of Moff Gideon. We talk about the Night of 1,000 Tears, the Purge of Mandalore, and all these great elements that come into play by the end of the season. But that tight focus that Season 1 has is a real strength of the show. No doubt about it. Even when we sort of get into like the sort of sort of quest of the week aspect of the show when it goes to episodes 4, 5, and 6, a little bit more singular, like a little bit more like that Incredible Hulk vibe where you go from town to town and you help people. Even that works pretty well. Again, I would say that there is still one of the 1 week episode out of those initial 8, but even that one still works in many regards, and it sets up a lot of stuff too. I am of course referring to the Gunslinger episode, the one where we go back to Tatooine, and that's mostly because I just don't care for the Gunslinger character. But we get a lot of, we are introduced to a lot of other characters through that episode that come into play, not the least of which is Fennec Shand, and many more. But again, still a completely watchable episode of the series, even though it may be my least favorite of those first 8. Still really good stuff. Real good stuff. Now this is the part of the podcast where I am going to pick some nits, because again, we have the benefit of hindsight now. We have 3 seasons of the show, and so I can talk a little bit about this, because while we do know where the show's going, there's still a lot of stuff in this first season that we don't have any answers for. That like you can't help but wonder when you watch them, like, why is this like this? And I'm specifically referring to Grogu and his circumstances when we were introduced to him. He's on this planet. He's was it the Nikto, I think, had sort of like overrun this place, and he's sort of their prisoner. But do they even know he's in there? What's going on with that? How did Grogu get to this situation, to this circumstance that he's in? Does it tie in more into Keller and Beck, a character that we are introduced to as the one who saves Grogu later on, but we still don't know how we got to this place with Grogu. And again, is it ultimately important for the journey of Grogu? Maybe not, but you can't help but have these questions. And, we can infer a lot about the situation of the Mandalorians from what we hear about the Night of 1,000 Tears and the Purge of Mandalore and the Empire taking over. And then obviously when we have that moment in the finale as like the sort of epilogue of the show, of the season, when Gideon activates the Darksaber, we begin to we can make some educated leaps. And that's exciting, but it'd be great for these things to be a little bit more fleshed out and confirmed. And we do get more of that on the Gideon and Mandalore front as the show goes on. But so much of Grogu's past is still shrouded in mystery that I don't know when or if it will ever be explored. Because let's think about The Mandalorian as a show. It was the first effort of a live-action Star Wars show to tell sort of long-form storytelling. Now, yes, we'd seen this in the Clone Wars and in Rebels prior to this, and I think the Bad Batch was coming out at that time. So we've been getting that through animation for quite some time, but this was a new thing for Star Wars to do. It was Star Wars in a new format, in a new way. And I think it's easy for us to forget how trailblazing this show was at the time. And the benefit of having that long-form storytelling is that you can get into these things. Yes, you're going to have your A story and your B stories, and then you get you just drop in little nuggets here and there, background stuff that eventually you pay off. And yeah, the show does that a lot during its first 3 seasons. But now that the show has transitioned from like an 8-episode season into a 2-hour movie, do we have time to get into some of that background stuff? Is it front and center? Is it something that's high on Jon Favreau's to-do list to sort of reveal a little bit more of Grogu's circumstances on how he got to where he was in the opening of The Mandalorian? And I guess I don't know. And again, I have mentioned multiple times that the ad campaign for The Mandalorian isn't really helping sell it to me because it's not really showing me much. And maybe that's intentional. Maybe that's because these things that I'm mentioning right now as my nits that I'm picking for this first season are going to be answered, are going to be addressed, are of primary focus in this film. Could be, who knows? But yeah, it's one of those things. When you rewatch this season, you will find little things like, gosh, we still don't know how and why. Gosh, isn't that something? So, again, those are nits though. And maybe we'll get those answers over time. We have to wait and see. Again, I've commented before about Disney not being a fan of necessarily filling out anything via comics or novels to provide any sort of background information. I know there was to be a Mandalorian book at one point, but that was scrapped, probably because Favreau was like, I don't want anyone telling anything about Din or Grogu besides me and my team. And again, that's not confirmed. I'm speculating, but it makes a certain amount of sense because Favreau and Filoni and many other creators who've been with the show since the first moments, they're the ones charting this course, and that's okay. That's fine. But it would be nice to get a little bit more information. So in short, rewatch Mandalorian Season 1. It is still magic. It is still a good time. And it's just a wonderful new taste of the Star Wars galaxy. And I think it still holds up to this day. Maybe even better because you sort of know the course. You know what we're charting to. Again, you can't watch the Prisoner episode without thinking of where Bill Burr's going to be next time you see him and how that's going to hit. So there's a lot of really good stuff in here. This season is magic. It holds up. It's basically 10 buckets. I mean, 9.5 if I want to really knock it. But those 8 episodes move. The first 3 are gold. The last 2 are gold, and everything in the middle is really nice too. So check it out. The plan is to rewatch everything. Now that I'm this far down the rabbit hole, season 2, Book of Boba Fett, and then season 3. So we're gonna get to all of it. Again, just brief little recaps. We're not gonna dive deep into the episodes. Those still exist on the feed. If you want to hear my thoughts on the episodes individually, please go back into our catalog. All those episodes are still available. If there's anything significantly changed my mind, if my mind has changed on anything in a significant fashion, I will talk about it directly in this. But for this first season, those opinions that I had when I did the original recordings still hold. So, rewatch The Mandalorian. It's a great time. And I think that's all we're going to say about that for this week's show. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for supporting the MandoVision podcast. I am your host, Narguy Tom, Buckethead Nation. You are the best supporters out there in the galaxy. Thank you for everything you do to spread the word about this show and support this show. So let's go out there, be great Star Wars fans, kind, supportive, respectful, understanding, tolerant, patient, and generally awesome people. And again, I'll be at Star Wars Celebration that first Thursday. Hit me up if you're going too. Let me know your experience with the ticket queue, if you had one, or if yours was like you were like the guy who got the first ones. Tell me if you were that person. Tell me that story as well. All right, Bucketheads, go out there, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, kind, supportive, respectful, understanding. You know the thing. All right, let's get out of here. Remember, this podcast, it only ends one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
You expect me to search the galaxy for the home of this creature and deliver it to a race of enemy sorcerers?
This is the way.
I would like to see the baby.